misery. Eventually, they were asked to leave Florence, and they were separated when authorities found out that there were two men living together in the same apartment and sharing one room and bed. And then eventually, they ended up in a concentration camp.
2 years in that camp, right?
It's hard to tell, but there were several months that they were in there, and then after they eventually were able to leave, they were still wandering the countryside, and so they were in a lot of trouble. They ran into African Americans from the 92nd Infantry who were in Italy, and they had reporters embedded with them, and the reporters recorded this story, took photographs. That's how I actually discovered the story, and that's where I started with Reed.
Reed Pegram's life enters a very sad period then. He went to a sanitarium and received treatments. What was that like?
Yes, he spent 4 years at Medical State Hospital. He underwent electroshock therapy and possibly a lobotomy. And then his life after that, the life that started with such promise, seemed to just go very downhill. He never was able to finish his thesis or work as a university professor, which he wanted to do.
Professor Whitmire, how do we account this human life? A dazzling life and or a life dimmed by bigotry and misunderstanding?
It started with a dazzling life. I think that's important to look at all the opportunities that he had and took advantage of. And then he was betrayed by not just race, but also homophobia. If he could have married Arna, he could have brought him to the United States, and they would not have had this whole odyssey.
The Remarkable Life of Reed Pegram is Kathleen Whitmire's new book. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Weekend Edition from NPR News. I'm Scott Simon.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from the NPR Wine Club, now shipping to additional states. Whether purchasing a few wines or joining the wine club, every purchase supports NPR. Available to adults 21 or older. NPRWineClub.org. From Cigna Healthcare. At Cigna Healthcare, they're dedicated to being there through life's everyday and extraordinary health moments. Learn more at Cigna.com/better. And from the listeners who support
here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 more per month, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Become a new member today at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Good morning.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
Listen here for a bonus hour, remembering Grateful Dead co-founder Bob Weir. Deeper track performances and more comments from Grateful Dead historian David Gans.
I did my first interview with Bob while he was working on his second solo album. So we stayed in touch and I started to hang out with him and even did a couple of double dates in the early 80s.
I need a miracle every day.
Bob Weir Remembered, Hour 2, right here real soon. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7. Service of the University of Houston. Get local and breaking news anytime at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Listen to us on your favorite devices. Tell your smart speaker to play News 88.7.
A big part of the modern economy today relies on this fundamental thing that most people probably don't even realize exists. It's called the cold chain.
The cold chain is all of those cold spaces that mean that your food should be able to move from the farm to the point of purchase without ever being outside of the cold.
I'm Nick Compton, and today on Planet Money, we dive into the fascinating history of the cold chain, starting with a thrifty butcher and a train-hopping chemist.
Today, Michael Dubin, founder of Dollar Shave Club, joins me to take questions from two early-stage entrepreneurs and share some of what he's been up to since he sold his own company to Unilever.
I would say the most exciting stuff that I have been up to is I wrote a screenplay. That was a super fun endeavor.
It's an hour of economics and innovation on How I Built This.
And Planet Money from NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Winter Johnston. The federal government is shut down again, but unlike the record-long shutdown last fall, this funding lapse doesn't affect the entire government and could last only a few days. Lawmakers remain at odds over additional guardrails on federal immigration officers following the shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis this month. NPR's Sam Greenglass reports.
Democrats are demanding a suite of changes like requiring judicial warrants for immigration raids, ensuring impartial investigations and accountability after incidents, and mandating immigration officers wear body cameras and remove their masks. Democrats feel emboldened because they think the public agrees with them. And even more than the last shutdown debate over those health subsidies last fall, what's unfolded in Minneapolis maybe speaks to something fundamental about the country at this moment.
That's NPR's Sam Greenglass reporting. As part of a national day of protest against federal immigration enforcement, nurses gathered outside the largest hospital in Maine to remember one of their own. Nicole Grosco from Maine Public Radio reports.
Nurses and other supporters packed outside Maine Medical Center in Portland to remember Alex Preddy, the VA nurse who was killed by federal agents last weekend in Minneapolis. Nurse Taylor Westcott says Preddy's death hit especially hard as more than 200 people were recently arrested in Maine during a multi-day immigration